Well, I have 7 PM, so I think we can begin. I'll call the meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Landmarks and Historic Districts Board for October 17th, 2023. Present are members Stephanie Davis, William Hines, Susan Sherry Clark, Tim Ganettis, Jeff Gibbons, Vicki Kahn, Barbara Roberts, and Ed Wisnowski. This meeting is being conducted under town and New York State law providing for in-person and remote participation. Individuals may undertake remote participation by activating the Zoom link found on the published agenda and at the town clerk's agenda and meeting portal. Viewing only is found by activating the live link at the top of the town clerk's meeting portal page. The online Zoom participation is being moderated by CTV. For comment on a particular agenda item, please notify CTV via the chat function so that comment can be made. To reduce wait times for online and in-person public participants, our practice is to advance such items on our meeting agenda if we are notified in advance. Commentators will need to provide name, agency if relevant, and place of residence or business. With that, we can proceed to the first item of business, which is the minutes of September 19th, 2023, which were circulated by Stephanie. We've had a chance to review them. Are there any other concerns with respect to the minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve. Susan? Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. We have two guests with respect to, we have two applications with respect to having some guest presence. So we will advance them to the top of the agenda so you don't have to wait. And the first one we will take up is 18 Scallop Pond Lane, North Sea. And this is an application to basically replace on the rear of the building a new addition, two-story addition, I believe it is. And it is on a building that has some mystery associated with its past. It is in AKRF, identified in AKRF as a potential resource. This is a house that was not always in this location. Looking at a 1969 map or 68, someplace in that time, an aerial image. This was not a built environment, so this was moved there. One of the former owners, I believe, was by the name of Kennelly, and he was a house mover. So this came from another place. AKRF describes it as, this appears to be an 1870 Gothic farmhouse that was likely moved to this location as it does not appear on historic maps. The two-story cross-gable building was pointed arch windows. The windows throughout the house are 2/2 light, double-hung sash. It has wraparound porch, and a brick chimney rises from the roof ridge of the cross gable. There's a projecting bay window with decorative brackets on a side facade, and an additional chimney appears to have been added at a later date, and potentially says that it might be potentially considered as a landmark. The application is complete. This is the front facade of the building. Picture of the side. And this projects, I forget what side of the, let me see if I can get the image here.
No, actually south.
This is comes from the rear then, I guess,
Yeah,
that, let me see if I can find the, this is on the rear elevation of the house. So in looking at this, the plans, go back and see them. I don't know, Jeff, did you have a sense of visiting that at all?
I didn't get a chance to go there. I've been there before. I thought it was a fairly sympathetic addition. I was just a little concerned because the windows are 2/2 and the house exists as, I'm sorry, they're 1/1 and the house exists as 2/2. But, and it doesn't seem like they're replacing all the windows, so it could be just that they didn't draw it in.
Most of what it will occur is basically to the rear of the house.
A little bit on the side, just
Yeah.
a mudroom, but that's a one-story
On the
piece.
right.
Basically, aside from that mudroom on the side, it seems like the footprint has not been enlarged in the rest of the house. Yeah. They're just taking that piece, that one-story piece that you saw, removing it and then putting a two-story thing in its place the same size.
Yeah. By the way, I would remind board members to make
Oh,
sure you
sorry.
kind of vote you a little bit closer to the mics for the minutes that will be recorded off of this meeting record.
Yeah,
So,
anyway, the
yeah.
basic footprint of the house, aside from the small one-story addition on the east side, the footprint will not change. So it's just that one-story piece in the backyard, which is on the south side, I believe, will become a two-story piece. The same footprint.
Myself, I didn't see any major change in the historical character that you know, have for visibility on the building. So, any other comments from?
No, I'll just comment, there weren't any interior photos, which would have been helpful to me personally, just to see what historic fabric was left. But that's not a point that if they're not there, they're not there, not to hold the application up.
Yeah.
But
And the
it's
question-
always nice to know, we don't need everything, but you get an idea if sometimes there's nothing left on the inside and sometimes there's a lot or someplace in between. But that's fine, you know, that the exterior photos were helpful, which is what we really evaluate.
So, I was not able myself to devote enough time to try and pinpoint the actual location where it was originally said to be found,
I
although,
think the one next door at 14 was also moved there.
yes,
But we found, somebody knew where it came from. It came down from near Tupper. And at
Okay.
least that was, there was a whole story about that, but this one I don't know.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard.
well, there are a lot of houses in the town of Southampton who have had that happen to them, being moved into new locations, so. But if there's no particular concern here, we'll, be able to file a response that we have no objection to what your plans are for it, and, good luck with the
Could I-
renovation.
I just ask if you're going to match I just wanted to ask if you're gonna match the new windows.
Yes.
So there'll be 2 over 2?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, that's all.
Okay, so we can dispose of that, and thanks for being here in case we had more questions.
Absolutely, I appreciate it, thank you so much.
Hi. Okay, 163 Maple Lane. Um, This is a 1913 house, built, sits on a road that goes by both the name Maple Lane and sometimes Railroad Avenue, which is the old name for the street as well. Let me see if I can pick that up here. This was in AKRF as well. This is Bridgehampton Center for the most part. This is Montauk Highway, Main Street. Lumber Lane, back in 1900 it was called Chestnut Avenue. This is Railroad Avenue, and you can see why. This is where, before the development in East Hampton, the railroad terminated, and was an important location for quite a point in time. This highlighted area is the, in 1902, would be the location of 163 Main Street. It's the farmland of William A. Corwith. Practically all of the north side of Montauk Highway from Lumber Lane for the 1.5 miles or so to Butter Lane was all William Corwith farmland. This is the farmhouse that remains, 1825 farmhouse that is now the headquarters of the Bridgehampton Museum. And they have some agricultural style buildings on that little campus there as well. If we jump forward to 1916, we find the name of Arthur Loper on that property with a house that's in place. And Arthur Loper actually is the son of one of the famous individuals in 19th century Bridgehampton, basically the person who started a grocery store, and eventually his building burned down and it was rebuilt, and it's a brick building now, brick building on Main Street that's reflected here at the bottom, and that became the Bridgehampton Bank location, the first place where it was headquartered. in the Loper property. And today it is, the brick building is still there and now is a Starbucks. But Arthur Loper went off to college, and when he came back, he married, and he bought that property from Corwith family descendants in June of 1913, and then a month later married his wife, and it was put up in the newspaper that basically he was breaking ground for his house in July 2013. I said 1913. I'm in the wrong century. Yeah. And that is from the County Review in Riverhead, indicating the date of the house was being built. Assessor had it estimated at 1910 for the AYB on the house. So the plans for this this is the AKRF survey report done in 2014. The house is brown in character. It's certainly a little different today. Let me just bring up the contemporary images here. This is the way the house looks in contemporary condition. The AKRF survey description is a little off in terms of, I think, the style. It talks about rounded windows in the gable. I think it got the text got mixed up with the image in the report. This is a heavy foliaged property. Thick screening, as you can see. Looks like nobody has walked through the gate in the foliage for a long time, because there's a lot of growth behind it as well. Basically the house has been masked from any kind of familiarity for a period of time. So getting back to the plans, let's see if I got the, where am I on? Okay. The plans that we see here, let me get the view correct. So the above is basically the front or Maple Lane facing elevation. The bottom image is what is planned. In terms of the additions that are to be made, among other things, changing the entrance, incorporating a standing seam metal roof over an extended portion on the front of the house, a new addition on the east side of the house over here. And as we go forward, this is the plans are mislabeled. the proposed west elevation is actually the east elevation in the plans, so, you know, we're trying to match them up, you would find them not working together. So this is, again, the portion of an addition stretching on the east elevation, or the west elevation, depending on which one you're referencing. This is the rear of the building, rear of the structure. As you can see, there's an extension out in the back.
They said it's the side.
Pardon?
The people here said that it's the side view, not the rear.
The side view, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. And you can see the added mass to the house there as well. And this is the south side, or the back of the house, that you can't see from the street. And I don't know whether or not there's a visual sight line off of Halsey. There's a interior of the block has a access road, Halsey Street, that might have clearance to see the back of the house, but I doubt it. Anyway, that would be the look of the back of the house. So it's a radical alteration of an original volume to some degree. I am, a little, put off by the kind of added mass and added scale. On the other hand, it's a fairly small structure that, modern lifestyles don't necessarily fit into very well. So there's a lot of increased space being added to the house. I'm of mixed opinion about it. So it's not something that is any longer familiar to passers-by. The neighborhood has had a number of remodels of existing houses of this period, and even a little bit later, that have increased their size, including some new houses. And there's actually one very modern structure that was put up on Maple Lane. Maple Lane had originally been targeted by AKRF as a historic residential district, but a lot of the activity in the past 10 years or so has very much altered the character of the street. This was a street also in which some illegal renovations were taking place in an 1890s brick house, and the brick house collapsed, and ultimately was replaced by a modern structure. So I don't, as I said, I have a mixed opinion, but I'm willing to get feedback if you have some thoughts about this. The application had a decent amount of internal pictures that were as part of the application, which was very very useful.
I mean, the rear, of course, has a lot of windows, but then no one's going to, just a mass windows, see that. When you go to the front, I guess it was that standing seam, large roof that'll go the whole width and around. seems, I don't know, it seemed jarring to me.
Well, it's a change, but we've seen standing seam metal roofs increasingly show up on applications for older houses, and sometimes, I mean, it's not uniform throughout the buildings that are being presented, it's either a porch roof or something along that
This at
lines, while
least-
the rest is asphalt or shingle.
It seems like a roof pitch that you'd need that metal roof in order to accomplish and have the proper water tightness.
There is a barn. This barn has this kind of eyebrow dormer on it. It's in the rear of the property. That's also would be 1913 or so. Loper he raised chickens. And also, I looked at a Sanborn insurance map that, for 1920, that maps sometimes the uses of the buildings in Bridgehampton. And it showed a whole bunch of chicken coops along Maple Lane on the adjoining properties. So people maybe they even had a cow for fresh milk, as well as the chickens for their eggs 100 years ago. But this operates as a pool house, and there's interior renovations going on, but there's no exterior change in appearance with the barn there.
So do we know the colors that are planned for the house, and particularly the standing seam metal roof? Is that on the drawings, or?
It is.
It is?
I don't know, perhaps if you can describe the colors?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, Dave Harvey.
Yeah, why don't you step up so the microphone can capture your...
Dave Harvey, D&D Harvey Architects, 21 Cove Road, Sag Harbor, representing the owners. First off, it was news to the owners and us that it was even considered a historic structure, which is fine. I'm glad I didn't propose to tear it down. So basically what we tried to do is keep the volume of the house essentially the same on the second floor, with an addition out the back on the second floor. First floor additions are basically out of necessity for the family. We kept them very low slung. We chose a low slung porch addition around the structure. So, you kind of have to start somewhere. So we felt like a porch addition that parts were infilled with glass, as you saw in the back, which is, a great room or family room. The front porch addition was decided upon because there's a small expansion to a study that's already existing in that swooping existing front roof. So we basically just kept going with that swoop, i.e. very shallow pitch, and then historically shallow pitch standing metal seam. So that's kind of the theory behind the proposed additions. So it was going to be either a light gray aluminum standing seam roof, or like a dove gray, or a lead-coated copper roof, depending on budget, but similar in look. Of course, the lead-coated is nicer, but the light gray kind of mimics that. The siding is all in kind, so we were just going to basically run with the existing shingle, and there's some clapboard on the building. Thank you for the history lesson. The original colors of the house are very nice. Maybe we can talk them into going back to that. But currently, it's kind of matched what's there: the white trim, the light gray siding. The wood roof is basically untouched. When it gets too shallow, it turns to a standing seam metal, which you do see that historically happen throughout the towns. So we were being sympathetic. These people did not want to tear down the house. They did not want to make a McMansion. So I think what you see above the hedge line stays pretty much, untouched. It's basically a first floor addition. There is also The barn in the back, which is, we're not touching, they do want to put a small pool bathroom inside, but that gets built completely separate of the shell of the barn. So again, we're, trying to keep it as is.
Yeah. I see also that there's a plan for a future garage.
Yes, so we actually did an extensive renovation 3 doors down years ago, like 20 years ago. Small 1-story shingled garage, single car garage. It would present itself behind the front line of the porch addition. Again, only very small, 16 feet high, shingled, white trim, carriage door on the front. It's kind of, we're trying to keep the scale of all the structures down.
Any other kinds of questions you have for our representative here? So.
Nope.
Well, thanks for the information. Anybody want to tip me one way or the other?
I would say, I think that the additions are generally sympathetic to the existing volume that's there. I think the additions, particularly in the back, I think help with some existing awkward, volumes in the back. I looked at the size of the porch that's there already. It's really not large enough to do anything with, and I think adding the additional volume on the porch would, probably be better for the, the family who's going to be living there. And I think it's again generally sympathetic to the existing construction of the house.
I agree with Stephanie. I mean, I think, I don't object to the standing seam roof at all. I think it's actually probably a good addition rather than the alternatives, because then the entire volume would get very convoluted looking, and there's enough going on there already. So I think it's actually okay.
Well, getting tipped. Okay, so I'm persuaded. If there's no objection from anybody else, I'll send back a response that we have no concern or objection to what's proposed.
Okay, thank you very much.
It'll be probably a couple days before that stuff gets filtered back to the building department.
Take your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming and
Thanks.
helping explain what's going on.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll check off those two. So we can go back and commiserate on 21 Emma's Path. Which,
So did you
Too
get
late.
my abbreviated report this afternoon? I didn't send it till like 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
I got it, yes.
did, okay.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
it was something we had previously seen.
Yes. Yeah. In 2013, Sally Spanberg and Larry Jones did a report on this. It was going to the planning board to do a 19-lot subdivision. There were 3 houses, a barn, a greenhouse, a corn crib, and an outhouse or something on it. At that time, everything except for the small barn have since been demolished. At that time, most of them were, well, the houses were still in use. So the subject property had the barn, which was converted to a house and then added on to over the years. And as you can see in that picture, there is no house anymore. In 2022, this came before us. Stephanie and I went to the site, reviewed the house, In the 2013 reports that Sally Spanberg had done, the house was still in use and she called it serviceable. In 2022, as you can see, they've used it as a paintball activity house, painted a huge flag on it. All of the windows were broken and then boarded up. It was in terrible disrepair. We basically objected to the demolition of it through neglect. So we're not quite sure why it's back in front of us. I did go into
That
the
was my
GIS,
question. Yeah.
and it appears that their permit has expired. So I
Mm.
guess in renewing it, they sent them back to us. But at this point, the house is gone, but Stephanie and I both felt that we should still go on record that we object to the demolition of it, and just inserted a small report, which I also included the previous report from 2022. But the original barn was post and beam, mortise and tenon together. You could see the hand hewing marks in it. Part of the roof had been changed with several dormers. A large lean-to had been added to the side of it, and it had been converted from the barn in 1968, I believe, into the house. So a lot of it had been buried inside. At this point, in one of the photos, I did show the pile of materials that they had salvaged from the house. It was a series of doors, and then some of the, it may have been there was post and beam framing in a pile in the garage section of the house, and it may be that material that they just threw in the yard. But I don't think they saved the post and beam material out of the barn that was in the house. But all of it is just lying on the ground, open to the weather. The doors, you could see, were starting to come apart. At this point, I can't imagine that any of it has any real use in the future.
So, we do want to file a response, given the repeat application.
Mhm.
And the response is to object. And the objection is based upon the fact that it's already done without review,
We did review it,
right?
and we
Well,
objected to the demolition.
yeah.
Yeah, but then now they're back in front of us, and they've done the demolition, but I guess they never got their certificate of compliance at the end of it. So we're basically just looking at it again.
You know,
So-
and I don't live on that road and drive past it every day, even though I have driven, down past from time to time to see. But it's just a sad commentary, starting back in 2013, the time and the effort and the work that a number of people went in to try to have input that a subdivision could be done, but also save some of the past combined with the future. And from what you said, there was nothing from the past that,
One of there was
know,
a small barn that was moved about 6 or 7 lots to the north, and it was converted into a pool house, but at this point, inside and out, there's no historic fabric, there's no way of telling what that building originally was.
And that was one of the conditions of the subdivision approval, is that certain of these structures were supposed to be adaptively reused and not demolished. But nevertheless, they all, except that one, ended up in the dumpster.
because I could just remember there were so many, was there like a little there were different little buildings?
There was the blacksmith's
And
house.
I
which
didn't
is-
have a concept of what they all were, but I knew you did,
Mhm.
exactly where they were located, but there was like a whole complex back in there. And it just seemed, out of all that some relic could have been adaptively used.
They just
But they weren't.
It basically gave they said, oh, yeah, we'll do right, and then proceeded to not do it
Yes,
completely.
yes. There was the one structure that was reused, although as Bill points out,
No
the
longer
amount of
rec-
historic fabric left is
Nothing.
pretty minimal, if any.
So, in responding, we will object. And, Bill, would you do the
Mhm.
paperwork on it?
Yes.
Okay. I don't, yeah. I'm reluctant to find out what the paperwork confusion element might be here with
Mhm.
respect to, you know, why it's circulating twice. So, you know, that, I
I
think
think as
should.
Bill said, they needed to close out their permit. But why they would need to close it out after they already demoed it? I think because they
Well-
had to close it out.
Yeah, you
the
still have to
department
make it
treats that as
official,
a new application
right.
or an extension.
So, I mean, it's a form of paperwork redundancy that exists,
Yes.
that is,
The,
for
window
us,
in
substantially meaningless.
Yeah, I actually thought that you guys would have said no need
Well,
for review.
Yeah, but for the building department, it's substantially meaningless for us, but it is substantially meaningful for the building department's procedure.
Well, it should be, right? I mean, the inspector, somebody, when they,
Right,
I
and
mean,
as
somebody
a-
should have looked at that demo,
Well,
looked at the,
all it does is it holds up the issuance of the certificate of compliance.
yeah.
Okay, well,
But it does go into the
Alright.
records as, because this is now a separate permit, because it's under a different number.
Right.
So instead of it being passed upon, it goes in that we have objected to it, so.
Yeah, and it's also a record of what actually happened out there.
Yes.
Mhm.
I think at some point, and not with this, you know, particular application, that whenever they expired, that we got them back again, that you actually got another shot to save it, was the whole reason, because it expired, you get it back, and you can try to change, it could be a new owner, it could be,
Mhm.
circumstances could have changed in a positive light for it, but that's not, of course, the case for this one.
Not the case here.
okay, anyway.
I'll file
I
a
think
report.
we've analyzed
Response.
Yeah.
the elements involved.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's go on here. What's next?
Okay, 16 Oregon Road, East Hampton Bays. We dealt with this last meeting, or I should say, we didn't deal with it, we passed on it on the agenda for the last meeting. It was then determined that there was solar panel installation, which was not clear in the application that we dealt with. And then it was determined that the solar panel installation was not something supposed to be reviewed by us. And then it was determined that the electronic interface for the solar panel installation that appears on the outside of the house was something we're supposed to look at. So everything is very clear. But myself, I did not, I think we had some illustration of that. This is the this is the back of 18 Argonne Road East, where they intend to put the electronic, the electrical interface for the solar
To the
panel.
rear.
Myself, it's behind the house, not going to be seen. I would recommend we not object to it. Maybe object to the code provision that provides for a certain kind of exemption for solar panels on historic roofs, but that's another issue for another day.
Yeah.
So if there's no concern, I would write no objection to the application for this installation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it should just be clear that our opinion is not being rendered on the solar panels, because we're not supposed to be commenting on those. It's like, there's solar panels proposed for all 4 roofs here, including the roof on the front of the house. So they're gonna be visible from the street. But if we're not supposed to be commenting on solar panels, I think our response should be very clear that we're not commenting on them.
Yeah. Well, there's also an administrative kind of confusion in the code, because there is the fast track business, but it's not clear how fast track gets identified.
It seemed to have something to do with whether you had to replace or put in new roof rafters or new plywood. And that would disqualify it for fast tracking.
This is at the moment a one-off kind of situation, so, it's not something I think might be a priority to focus on for solving maybe an issue that may not come up for another 5 years, so. but
Actually, wasn't there an email that said that it wasn't fast track? It didn't qualify for that?
I didn't
I don't recall
I
seeing that.
didn't catch that. I thought it was your email who said it was they were all fast tracked.
No, I said if it was qualified for fast tracking, it didn't, review by the landmarks board wasn't warranted. But then the building inspector, I thought he wrote back and said that it didn't qualify for fast tracking.
Well,
You know what, why don't you comment on just comment on the
form,
solar panels.
yeah, I'll put something on the response, just to acknowledge that at least we see there is some possibilities of confusion here with respect to the way this is processed.
But have we ever formally articulated a policy?
Pardon?
Have we formally?
No, it's not a policy, the
No.
code says that, solar panel installation on roofs that
Right.
qualify for fast tracking do not get referred to the landmarks board.
Right, my question was, leaving fast tracking aside, have we articulated a policy from our board for solar panels in general as
Why
a,
do you need a policy if the code says something?
I thought it was only for fast tracking, maybe I'm misunderstanding
It's
it.
for fast track, right, which means you don't have to change anything on your roof, you're just putting up, you don't have to, beef up the roof structure, you're just putting up the panels.
So it wouldn't
But
be,
wait,
it wouldn't be an application.
Right, but we do have
that we would-
applications in front of us where there are, significant changes to the buildings that we're looking at. And we have looked at situations where we've seen solar panels, and we've, that's, too bad. But I don't know that we have a formal policy, because, how do you integrate, improvements in current day living with a historic structure?
Well,
And
if
should
it's
we
not-
look at
If
that?
it doesn't qualify for fast tracking, then you would get to look at it. Now, are you saying you should have a policy that says you don't wanna look at them?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
Well, if it
Just the
doesn't qualify
reverse,
for
I was
fast
just-
tracking, you get to see it.
Okay.
Okay, all right. We'll talk
I think
about
also
that.
this was sent to us possibly because of the battery system
Yes.
Yes.
being mounted
Yes.
on the side, so that's a novel thing. I think it's the first
Right.
application. Those are relatively new. And Tesla really came into the New York market very recently, so we'll probably be getting more of those.
Yeah.
So the fact that this one was seemingly not terribly visible from the street, it was discreet. I didn't have an issue with it, but other installations we may.
The
So-
reason you're getting that is, look, solar panels aside,
Yeah.
if the building department gets an application for a battery installation on the outside of the house, it needs a building permit. So you're gonna get it.
Right. So they consider removing the wood roof, and then if you're gonna put the asphalt roof on it, when you put the plywood on that roof, they consider it structural, and it requires a building permit. So that would
Right.
take it out of
Right.
fast tracking,
Right.
Okay.
and
And
then
then we'll come to us.
here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I thought there was an email that stated that
Yeah.
they were putting down new plywood.
Yes, there is, there definitely is.
There was, yeah.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
It's not a fast track.
Oh, so then we can comment on the solar panels.
Yes,
Okay,
and we should.
so then we don't want them on the
Back-
front of the house.
Back to ground zero.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Glad that
having
the
them on the
back-
front would just like screw up that historic appearance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well-
definitely, I mean, a hip roof like that is always difficult, because you got a
Yeah.
big triangle you're trying to
Exactly.
fit squares onto.
Yeah.
So it does make it tough, but what direction does the front of the house face?
I'll tell you in a minute, the front of the house faces north.
Well,
Then,
it's a no-brainer.
then you really have no use for the solar
North is solar
panels
panel.
Right. What
on
are
the
they
front
gonna
of the house to
do?
You
begin
get
with.
some
Right.
radiation, but
And the
it's
fact
not
that we don't really
significant.
wanna see them on an
Yeah, but
historic
because your hip
resource.
roof has so much limited surface anyway.
If you were
it
installing
probably is
them, you
trying to-
tell the homeowner something different though.
Yes,
Well,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, you don't wanna cut your job down, yeah.
They call it the power wall,
Yes,
Tesla.
They have a black solar shingle as well, but it's incredibly expensive.
yeah, it's a great
It's the
idea
stuff.
though.
And
But they also,
they're able to do the whole roof, so they have metal pieces, so where it's not a photovoltaic shingle, it's a metal shingle. So
Mhm.
you have the appearance of the,
Of a
but
roof.
it's, the colors that are available are black.
and is the, solar capacity of that similar to the other solar panels? I always thought it was less.
I have, the Tesla rep has not given that full information yet.
Okay, yeah.
So our posture then with respect to this is we don't object to the installation of the interface for the system. Do we want to say something about the installation of the solar panels that, you know, doesn't necessarily contradict what we're responding on?
Well, I would think that the solar panels that are visible from the street, which is, I would assume would be just the panels on that roof face that you see right there, which according to the survey faces north. They're gonna be highly visible from the street, and they're going to, in my opinion, detract from the appearance, the historic appearance of the house. The panels that would be on the sides or the back, certainly the sides would be less visible, the back wouldn't be visible at all from the street. And those, it would seem to me, would be not objectionable.
So, commenting on the solar panel installation, the most objectionable path would be to have them installed on the front roof. Less objectionable if they are on the side roof.
Right. And not objectionable on the back.
Yeah, my sense is, as I recall, this road runs, the front roof faces west, I believe.
According to the survey that's provided, that's the north arrow.
Yeah.
Here's Argonne Road, and it would be that the front-facing roof faces north.
Yes.
Oh, the front, it faces north.
Yes, the front roof
Okay,
faces
all
north,
right.
so it gets the least amount of sunlight.
Okay,
And what's proposed in the application is panels on all four roofs.
right, yeah, that's what the proposal is for. yeah.
Yes.
It's my personal opinion, whether it's code or not, that if we do get a chance to review solar panels, so you could at least educate, like we educate with the history, you educate where if you place them, A, B, and C would be preferable then. Because some people may not realize, I mean, even putting a skylight, you know, if you're going, if it's to the front of the house, it's gonna be detracting, but you might get the same results putting it someplace. So I think with the solar panels, it's really important,
Mhm.
since we're advisory,
Yeah.
that we should
Yeah,
give
Argon,
that kind
yeah.
of advice.
Argonne is an east-west road, yeah, so, this would be the yes, the north roof here. So, make comment that not objectionable on the one hand, but objectionable on the north roof.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, well, okay.
Yep.
Okay. 7 North Bay Avenue, Eastport.
Mhm. Okay, so this is a house that fell into disrepair, I don't know, a dozen years ago?
Or longer
Or
than
more,
that. It's
yeah.
been a long time vacant.
Is it longer? Yeah. Yikes. Recently, it was purchased from the bank. I don't know quite what happened to the ownership of it. It was not identified in the AKRF. It was not identified in the Eastport Hamlet Heritage Resource Area Report or the historical profiles of Eastport, Speonk, Remsenburg, and West Hampton. It does have an AYB of 1889. There were 2 sheds that were demolished in 2002. We don't have an AYB on those. There is a detached garage in the rear with an AYB of 1919, but at the moment, they're not doing any construction to that. So the house in 2014 looks pretty good. Currently, most of the first floor windows are boarded over. It's in pretty bad disrepair on the outside. What they plan to do is remove a small, well, actually, they've already done it. They've removed a rear addition, but there's already a large addition on the rear that had an addition then on the left and right sides of it. One of those has already been removed. The other one is slated to be removed. Those 2 are then going to be similarly reconstructed. The front of the house with the AYB of 1889 appears as you go through it, it's completely gutted inside. The framing and everything, the brick foundation looks like 1889. It makes sense. But this sort of 1.5-story rear portion is a heavy timber frame. So it looks like it was moved to this location and joined to the house. It's on a cement block foundation, which is on the 2 sides, but not across the end of it. So it sort of created an open crawl space. It was only supporting the walls where the roof came down on the sides. The end wall didn't have foundation underneath it. There is the typical round brick cellar. It's sort of in a figure 8. There's sort of 2 sections to it under the main part of the house. Yeah, there you can see the brick foundation. The drawing said that the stairs was going to be removed inside the house, but when I met the owner there, he said they planned on keeping it as long as the building department would allow him to, depending on whether it met code or not. So at some point, this little knee wall that you see on the bottom picture, that floor was added to create an attic up here. It's not high enough to be habitable space, but they just put a ledger down either side and hung a floor in there to create a lower ceiling on the first floor and I guess a storage room on the second floor. There's no sign that there were any finishes up here, so it's kind of odd trying to figure out what they were doing. The current owner plans to take that out and make that a 1.5-story space cathedraled inside and get that volume back, and it'll be the great room to the house. The smaller additions on the sides of it are mudroom and laundry. Yeah, here you can see the circular cellar.
There, you've got another one down there.
Yeah, we looked for them. The electric had been upgraded at some point. Most of the windows were still single glazed. Although they were wood frame, wood sash windows, they were 1/1, which I thought was odd, but but the windows appeared to be fairly old. They could be the originals. They had the sash weights and pulleys and stuff in them, although a lot of the sash weights, the cords were broken. They now plan to change all the windows to new Anderson windows. And again, they're doing them as 1/1. No, they're doing them as 6/1. So I wasn't sure whether the 1/1s were original and we should request that they do that again. It's interesting, there's one of the pictures has a small tag on it. Yeah, there. That's a tag of a house wrecking company, and this is salvaged wood. So it came from, I think, was it Brooklyn, or Manhattan? It came from Manhattan, and
East
a lot,
14th Street.
yeah,
New
a lot
York,
of the floor
Manhattan,
joists
yeah.
to the second floor had this tag on it. I didn't
Oh.
see it on any of the studs, and I didn't see it on the first floor joists or any of the roof rafters. But on the second floor, there were those tags, and there were quite a few of them, and they all say 2x6 by 26. So I guess 2 inches by 6 inches by 26 feet.
Yeah.
And they're throughout there. The house, of course, as you can see, has been stripped. You can see telltale signs of lath and plaster that have been removed. Most of the electrical has been removed. There's the new panel in the basement, so it's gonna receive all new insulation. Here you can, yeah, on that picture, you could see where the lath has been removed on the roof, all replaced with plywood for the asphalt roof. Oddly, they got done with most of the roof, but they never put hip and ridge caps on it, so the water was coming in through the seams. The upper picture in that one showed sort of a skip sheathing, almost like a lath, little spaces
There's back
between the
here,
sheathing,
yeah.
yeah, the upper one there. Although the first floor didn't have it, when they got to the gable ends, they all had that, which is sort of a, I guess you save a little material by leaving a little space. Yeah, the brick chimney had been removed. Yeah, there you can see on the back of the house in the upper picture where one of the additions has already been removed. There is no plan to replace that addition, but on the left and right of that volume were smaller additions. One was removed already, the other has not. They're planning on replacing those with very similar structures. So I was glad to see that they were saving it, not knocking it down. And I wasn't sure how to comment on the windows, because the 1/1 wood windows are fairly old. So that may have been the original window that they put in. So doing the 6/1 now, I didn't feel that that was correct, so I figured I would object to that and say that the 1/1 was the way to go. In the gable ends are fish scales and some other detailed shingles. On the second floor, it's a little hard to see, but left and right of the 2 upstairs windows, and between them is a diamond pattern of shingles. All of that's going to remain. The shingles aren't that old. I can't really say that it was on the original house, but it will be remaining because they do plan on leaving most of those shingles. But yeah, you can see there the missing ridge cap or hip cap. So they were almost done with it, and then they didn't quite finish, and then the water came in.
So it's got some bones that can be
Yes.
refurbished
Yeah.
and renovated
Yeah.
for preservation.
Unfortunately, on the 1902 and 1916 maps, they end with their detail 2 houses to the south of this.
Yeah.
So whether it was there at that time, we don't know, and we have no link to any previous owners' names or anything to trace them. And again, it's not in the AKRF, so nobody's done any previous work on it.
Okay, so you recommend no objection, I see in the
Yep.
report, and if there are other comments to be made?
I was just gonna ask about the windows. I mean, I don't recall ever seeing 1/1 windows in a late 1800s structure.
But if you do go to the picture of the windows, you can see, I mean, it is single glazed,
Mhm.
Is
wood
it wavy
windows.
glass?
The glass wasn't really wavy, no.
Yeah.
So
And
they,
what kind of, was it sash cords or was it sash chains? You said that some of them were broken.
yeah, it was rope.
Yeah.
So
And I'm
they-
just thinking about what, I mean, I have two wings in my house that are 1800s, and one of them has
Mhm.
salvaged 6/6 in it, and the other has 6/6 with chain weights.
Yeah.
And the glass is wavy.
Yeah.
So, I just, to me, it just does not read as an old house with the 1/1s.
Right.
So I'm not sure that I would object to replacing with 6/1. But, I mean, that's just, it just doesn't read right to me as a 1/1.
Right.
But all
It
the
didn't seem-
windows seem uniform in terms of the
Yes.
light pattern.
Yeah.
Including the top gable ones, in the very top gable?
Yes.
Because sometimes those ones stay while they replace the others.
Right, because they don't really need to be energy efficient in the attic. Yes, but they were all the same.
And no
Yeah.
sign of reframing of those upstairs, those top gable windows?
No.
No? Yeah, well, maybe they were 1/1s.
Or they were all replaced when they did them, yeah.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
window replacement in
But I did
1918.
think that they were replacement windows,
Mm.
sort of as I got there and looked at it from the street, because the 1/1 just didn't seem to make sense to me. So I thought they had been replaced, and then as I got closer to it, I realized they had not. There is one or two Anderson windows on the south side of the house that obviously were replaced at some point.
Okay, if there's no other comment about it, would you again do the honors?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Yeah, wonderful, it's not going into a dumpster.
44 Lewis Road, East Quogue,
Let's see what the
and Bill and Stephanie took a look at it and decided that what was proposed was not historically significant impact, so
Yeah, there
Well,
was nothing historically left of the
Right.
house.
Previously, they had raised the second floor roof line, and then they added more roof to the front of it. So the mass of it was not correct, and at this point, it's already gotten standing seam metal roof on the front of it, so there was nothing historic as far as the fabric or the massing. So
I would just comment, because I looked at it briefly, and this is for David, not that I would expect anyone to follow up, because I don't think it wasn't a historic resource to start with.
Right.
It had an AYB of 1934, and if you look at that, I think around 2002, it's a one-story little capey cabin kind of thing.
Yeah.
And around 2021, they added the second story, and we never reviewed it.
Yes.
And it's sort of rare now that we aren't getting the ones that we ought to, so we actually should have reviewed this before they put the second story on, and I think with those all skylights up there too, I'm not skylights, I mean solar panels
on
Yeah.
the back of the
all
house.
across the
Yeah.
front. And we may or may not have commented it depending on what we thought. My guess is we wouldn't have objected because it wasn't a historic resource, so I'm not pointing it out for that.
Mhm.
It's not like we lost something that
Right.
was, pertinent, but I'm just surprised we didn't get it
Right.
just
Yeah.
because we should have, because of the age.
Mhm.
That's all I.
So anyway, we incorporated it just for reference on our agenda, and the waiver response
Right, so
was
it's, I'm
forward.
saying something as far after the fact, I
Yeah.
make the comment, but there's no follow-up needed on that.
Okay, 163 Maple Lane, we reviewed. 4040 Noyak Road, Noyak. An old farmhouse. Are you familiar at all, Jeff with this?
Yeah. What they're doing is they're leaving the house, they're remodeling in the respect that they're replacing existing windows in existing with new windows in existing locations. And they're raising the house, and there's a whole new foundation basement that is going to be in part of the house. The footprint of the house is not supposed to change. However, the back of the basement comes out beyond where there is building. Like, in the village, I've worked on houses where they put a terrace in and had basement under there because it's considered below grade, and and it's not counted as square footage. It's not that side of the house, it's the back, you wouldn't see it from Noyak Road. That little bump out there at the, on the left,
Yeah.
the basement that's under it is bigger.
Huh.
But when you get to the first floor plan, it just shows you that.
Huh.
And like usually, there has to be a pad or something to roof over that basement part that's exposed, but I don't get it, so.
And there is also a barn on that dates back quite a while.
This is this big.
From the plans that are proposed, what I was seeing for the front porch didn't look very similar to what's there now. I mean, with the scout, unless they just left the details out.
It could be that they left the details out, yeah. But they should have they should have at least indicated that there was gonna be
Existing to
something there.
remain or something.
With the scalped, lattice work, I think gave it a particular name in AKRF, but I'm not seeing that at all. It seemed very distinctive. I'm not sure when it was probably added at some point, but it seems distinctive to the front of the house.
And the house is very visible from the road right now, anyway. I don't know how long that'll last, but.
The assessor has it as an 1890 AYB, and you can see it on the 1902 maps. I think it's also on the 1896 map, under the name of John Bennett. The Bennett family or family members had farmed, I guess, in that area. I do know that for many years that this was a house of other farmers, including the Bilges family, which operated the roadside stand at the corner of Noyak Road and Stony Hill Road, where that's roadside stand still is there and sells vegetables in the summer and seafood and Christmas trees at Christmas, and then it shuts down in the winter. But that was related to this building there, so. So, do you have any, I mean, they're redoing the windows. Are there concerns about that?
Well, they're replacing them with
Yeah.
2/2s, which is what's there now. Yeah, I would be concerned about the front porch the most, because it's quite distinctive.
Let me see if I can get.
The windows, some, but then I see there's some there that look like they were replacements, so that's.
Yeah, the front porch appearance is gonna be considerably different than it is now. That decorative work
Yeah, all that fretwork.
is all gonna be removed. It's gonna be a very simple, plain appearance. And right now, there's a very open railing, and they're gonna have railing with a bunch of little balusters or whatever in it.
Right.
So, on what they show as the left elevation, they are gonna be replacing a rather inappropriate bump out with some rather inappropriate looking windows with, it looks like a bunch of glass panel
Yeah.
door things.
Doors,
Doors, yeah.
And did this one have interior photos? I didn't make a note, but
No. Not that I
That what?
I don't remember what the inside.
No, I
was.
don't think it did.
What do I make a note? Usually I write that. Because, that would help with the windows if, I mean, I can see, of course, some of them are replacement, but I can't.
They're also replacing the front door, which has an arched glass opening in it now. I can't tell really if it's an old door or not. They're replacing it with a 4-panel door. So the house is gonna look quite different from the street side, particularly that porch.
It would be a shame to lose that.
So
Yeah.
do we think that porch was original?
No idea. But
So,
Given the
anything
detail, it's-
objectionable found with
Yeah. I mean, I
the
really,
Well,
project?
the new
Yeah.
porch seems to have taken the detail, the extensive detail of the existing porch and obliterated it and just made it a bunch of, like, most basic type of porch you could possibly ever get.
Mhm.
So we'd be losing a lot of historic character by taking that off. They don't indicate that the new porch incorporates any of the old.
Yeah.
no, they don't. Yeah, so I think I would object to the changes on the porch in terms of the changing in the railing character and also the changing in the decorative work hanging from the roof.
Right.
The one good thing they are doing is they're taking off, it looks like that lovely antenna is sticking out of the third floor of the house. It's no longer shown.
We would go back here.
It was the most distinctive element. That porch is the house.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
You know,
really
so
is.
when you take away
It
the
makes that
porch,
house.
Right,
you've lost the
exactly.
identity of the house.
Yeah,
otherwise it just goes back to like a barn.
yeah.
So, there's objection because of the loss of character, architectural appearance of the porch.
Yes.
It gives it some kind of period aspect to it
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would be lost, so that's the reason to object to it
Mhm.
with a recommendation that try to retain the character of that style that is there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I
Okay.
can understand them having to put the different railing system in for probably code reasons.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but
But.
if that's the lower railing and that change is not quite so dramatic, I
No.
think, as the loss of those
Yeah.
arched
Arched and
openings.
latticed.
Yeah.
The detail, like the sort of, that whole arch.
Yeah, the arch
System.
and there's cutouts on the corners
Right.
there. And there's a lattice work
I
top
mean,
to
they're
it.
turned columns below a certain point,
Mhm.
but I don't see anything like that in the new.
No, in the plans.
Do you think that is the original porch on the house?
Don't know.
It looks like the house has a brick foundation as you get to the rear of the porch.
Right,
It also looks like there's brick pillars underneath the posts on the porch.
right.
Which would suggest that the porch itself has been there for a while.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Well, the brick piers are there, but
turn posts
The
or,
posts and railing seem to be in extremely good shape for 120 years old. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that the architectural detail at the top is in fairly good shape too. If you wanna raise that, go up to on that picture to show us a blow-up of the close.
yeah,
Yeah.
look at that. And the dental work on the
Yeah.
edges of the board.
Yeah, I thought that was lattice, but it's
But
really
it's
not.
Really
no.
just punched.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very nice.
Little sawtooth following the curve and,
Right.
yeah. Why would you get rid of that?
Yeah,
Exactly.
and it doesn't look like it's in bad
This-
shape.
No, that's what I
No.
mean.
This house was owned by, well, this house after the Bilges family that had the farm stand on the corner, they were related to, and it passed to Mitchell Mezerneski. He was a carpenter and a builder.
Oh. That could be the source of that woodwork then.
Mhm.
And that,
But
to me, might, you know,
account for it, but I still think that, I mean, all right, maybe he was employing old means, but I don't even think they would do that in the 1930s. I mean, they wouldn't have gone to that length to put all that decoration on there, so you know, maybe it's not from 1890, but it might be from 1920s.
That's what,
No.
I mean, I assumed it was adapted later, but I can't say when unless somebody, the
I don't know,
family
you
has
know,
old
when you-
pictures and can show you that this,
I haven't seen this before, but certainly, when you look at some of the historic Victorian homes in San Francisco, for example, I mean, they were built at the turn of they definitely had work,
Right.
you know, a lot of detail work like this.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually the original.
Or
I wouldn't be surprised.
replicated in new material in a previous restoration.
Right.
Yeah.
I will comment that, you know, the rest of the house seems rather straightforward and
Mhm.
unornamented,
Exactly.
undecorated. So, to me, this reads as probably something of a later addition, but probably, as say, not much later. So it would still, I think,
And
in my mind, count toward as historic fabric of the house.
yes, it's what sets this house apart.
Yeah,
Exactly. I think we're all in agreement about the porch.
to me, it looks like a later addition to what was more of a simpler farmhouse at
Mhm.
one point.
Mhm.
And, so, but when it was put on is another question.
Right.
yeah.
So, okay, so we will still respond by saying that you're losing at least a very significant element of suggestion of the period for the house by making the porch more plain. Okay. Porch changes, okay. All right, so, with nothing there further, just a point about certificate of appropriateness, there are no applications. Part of that may be because there's no way to apply for a certificate of appropriateness.
I've got that on my list later on.
What's that?
I have that on my list.
Oh, yeah, and,
Well, you can if you're getting a building permit. If you need a building permit and you need a COA, you can fill out the form online. It's just if you don't need a building permit, then you have to do it by paper.
right, well, a building permit requires submission of building plans. And why would somebody go to the trouble of creating plans when they don't know whether or not they would get a certificate of appropriateness for them?
There it goes.
Yeah, I know. Another one of
You
those
don't know
little,
you're gonna get a
another
building
one,
permit
one of
either.
those little paperwork, things.
No,
the-
Ed, you
yeah.
don't know whether you're gonna get a building permit, you have to submit plans for those too. You might have to change
Right,
all
but-
plans.
Well, the question is, the Landmarks Board would say those plans are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of eliminates the whole process that is in the code for certificate of appropriateness, which is approach the Landmarks Board for, pre-conference, review
We can
of
talk about
plans.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Right
mean,
now, everything's geared toward a building permit, that's our concern, but
Well, unfortunately, yeah, but there's nobody, you can go to the Landmarks Board website and you cannot find a certificate of appropriateness
Well,
reference.
I look back and I had it on my, I didn't realize till you brought it up, because I sent it to you, I think it was in August. And, it was like, please post this under forms, applications and forms, and I thought it was there, and it's not there yet.
I thought we posted it when you sent it to me also.
It's not on the Landmarks Board
Well, I mean,
application and form. but-
people have asked me, how do you get a certificate of appropriateness?
Right, so I thought,
I
here's the
told them,
form,
I
it was
tried to find
fillable.
out how, and I couldn't find out how. It's embarrassing, but, that this
And
is.
you can find it by going into the search and searching around, but most people, it just needs, but, I'll send it to you again tomorrow, if
I
you,
got it.
you got it?
Yeah.
They could just please post that, and then people, you could say, go to Landmarks, applications and forms.
It should be
Yeah.
transparent
Yeah.
on our website,
Yeah.
because
Isn't the
we are
referral,
approved from,
Yeah.
the referral to the Landmarks Board form in with the general forms and whatnot that you find under
No.
building permit?
No.
It's not?
They're not, no. You can only get the referral to the Landmarks Board after you've made a building permit.
Oh.
There's no paper form, there's no link to a form. Because people started filling it out and sending it here before they applied for a building permit. And Janice didn't want that to happen.
I get that, I just, those people who man the desks in the building department, like, you gotta have everything, and if you don't have this and you're before that, why don't you have the landmarks form? At the same time that you're putting in for a building permit, that's what I
They
mean.
ask you that?
Yes. They want every last form has to be filled out to the nth degree. I could swear I saw it in the regular forms. If it was prior to
Yeah,
nineteen
the
forty-one.
other aspect is that the application that is there online, if you can find it, does not actually have the content associated with what would be required for a certificate.
No, I'm
of
not saying
appropriate-
that.
No, I know that. I'm just pointing out that what was done to the certificate of appropriateness procedure was to basically empty it of any kind of requirement of the kind of information that used to be required, So, I mean, it's really gotten messed up. So what happens to it, I don't, we'll have to see, but. Okay, referrals. We have a repeat performance from, 174 Wakeman, and we've been there before. There are two, it's a subdivision involving two properties. Basically, this property here, which is a 2000, is it a 2012 house? And this house, which is a 1931 Assessor AYB house. We looked at this once before. We didn't have any comment other than, I believe, the standard one that any demolition of the 1931 house should be referred to the Landmarks Board in
That's what
actuality, so.
I read it, and that's exactly
Right.
what it said.
So that kind of, we will
Mhm.
repeat that message back to the, okay. I don't know if there's anything new. I haven't heard anything about 11 Walnut Avenue.
No.
76 Main Street, West Hampton Beach Performing Arts Center was landmarked at the October 10th meeting?
That sounds great.
The board, yeah, okay. And so that's done, and we can get 76 Main Street off of the agenda.
Agenda, done.
149 South Country Road is probably also up in the air yet, as far as we know.
Yeah, I have to contact the owner on another matter, so I will ask the owner when I contact him what's happening with the easement, whether he's received an offer yet or not. The appraisal was reportedly underway,
All right.
last time I checked with CPF, but that was a while back.
Okay, Bridgehampton Historical District, the Bull's Head Main Street District. The planning board heard from Julie Green, who agreed to stand up for it. I was out of town for a period of time, so I couldn't make the planning board meeting, but I did see the video, and Julie did a good job, and the planning board was given a positive response back to the town board on the idea. So that's good. I did receive 2 inquiries from property owners in the district, and or 2 inquiries from their lawyers, and one of them I haven't responded to yet, but we'll get a chance. Had some slight misunderstanding of the character of what goes into being in a historic district, so we'll try to communicate back on that. And then tomorrow, I have a meeting with Julie Green, with another property owner and a residential property owner in the district, along with Councilman Tommy John Schiavone, to address the concerns of someone who, again, is not familiar with the whole process and what's involved with it, and wants more information. So we'll see what comes of that meeting as well. Under other matters, just one thing about the Stony Brook Historic Buildings on the Southampton campus here, Stony Brook University buildings. The Stony Brook Council, about which I wrote a letter to the Southampton Press about 2 months ago, has decided to come out to Southampton and hold their December 19th meeting here. Because they have in part some responsibilities for the care and feeding of the physical infrastructure of the Southampton campus. So that's one element of that, and then the other element of that is that, the administration of Stony Brook has appointed an official who is going to have more chief responsibility for, seeing what happens to those buildings, down the road. And I believe both the president of Stony Brook, Maureen McGinnis, and the officials under her who will be responsible, someone named Wendy Pearson, will be at the meeting along with the members of, a lot of members of her administration on December 19th. And I suspect some politicians might be present at that meeting as well. So we may see some positive activity occur there. I don't know if there's anything,
Dick's Windmill?
oh, the Dick's Windmill.
Yeah.
Yes, Bill, we should have.
I thought about that after.
Yes.
Okay.
My goodness, I forgot all about it.
So I met this morning with the Dick's Windmill design team and the mayor of West Hampton and the building inspector for West Hampton Beach. Basically, I've been approving the smaller details and things, but we sort of left open landscaping, any site lighting and signage, just things that we would review again in the board. So this morning I did receive drawings on the landscaping and the landscape lighting. It's a little bit different than what we looked at before. There's two legs that come in towards the building from the sidewalk. They've changed the angle on those a little bit. I didn't see any problem with that. Previously, there was one ring of garden around the structure and then the walkway, and then it went into the lawn. It now has a second degree of landscaping just outside of that walkway. Again, I didn't see any problem with that. The lighting are short bollards. It's a little downlight inside a sort of open circular form. So they're very low, very modest. The light is
Very nice.
definitely directed down and just wherever you point the opening, so they're gonna be very minimal in their lighting. There will be one other light, it hasn't been selected yet. It will go over the door into the windmill. For the moment, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the bid set out in early November. So if we can approve this, then they can move on with this part of it. The light they just plan on provided by owner, installed by contractor, and they'll pick that and get it to us at another point. There are some signposts shown on here with some uplights, but that's a village sign, so that's already there. The signage for the windmill, they haven't designed anything yet. We did talk about it a little bit, trying to do it something modest, kind of keep it low. Again, very little lighting on it and things like that. They're not gonna put that in with the bid set, so that will come before us again at some point in the future.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
So, does everybody kind of got a copy, or two copies, as it turns out, of the landscaping and lighting information. And the village is apparently interested in going ahead with this as quickly as possible.
Yes, yeah, they have I guess a trustee meeting in the first week of November, and they're hoping to, at that meeting, make their decision to put this out to bid, and they'll have all the documents ready. They have to announce it in the newspaper and things,
Great.
and they're hoping to do that in early November, so that they can get the bids back early December, so that we don't get into the holidays and the end of the year, and just keep pushing this thing further and further away.
So was there, everybody grasp enough of the detail that they feel comfortable, they know what's involved? I know Bill has been very
Yeah.
observant and and empowered as well to look after this project. And, you know, he's positive about the plan that has been presented. Is there any problem with the plan on behalf of anybody here?
Now, Bill pointed out to me earlier, the ones that, when you see the deciduous trees, they're pre-existing. The trees that are shown on the
Right,
plan, they're
follow the
already
street, yes.
there. It doesn't say existing, I guess that they were, but.
No.
I think it's lovely. Just hope the deer don't
Oh.
munch on the
Okay.
boxwood.
There
but
they
outside of
are.
that,
It says it over in the legend. Thank you.
it says no deer.
So if there's no other concern, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the landscaping and lighting plan as presented in the plans distributed today from the landscape architects, what is it, LDG?
LaGuardia Design.
LaGuardia, yeah.
So, so is there a motion to that effect?
Motion.
Approve, Vicky moves, okay. A second?
Second,
Second, well, Stephanie, you're part of the
oh,
program. So, any further discussion? The motion is to approve with a certificate of appropriateness to be issued to the village. And they don't have to search on the website for the application for it. So, if no further discussion, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think I'm gonna
Opposed?
abstain, because some
Okay,
people,
I know
some
you
people
had
in my
some.
firm
Yeah,
are working on it, I am not,
all right.
so I probably should have recused, but I'm not
Okay.
involved.
We'll make a note that Tim
If
has
it's a waste.
recused himself from the vote and discussion. Okay. There was some message from Linda about a certifying program or credit program for participation. I've forgotten about it. It was about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Right,
Yeah, but.
I'll get back on that now.
Yeah, I mean, part of the certified local government program is to provide some kind of exposure to training and education. This one required you to shell out some money out of your personal pocket.
mhm.
And, you know, that kind of thing should be an issue for the town to address, among many issues they have to address with respect to the Landmarks Board operation. But just wanted to make note that
Right.
that kind of thing did occur and will occur probably in the future. Anything else for, Susan, thank you for the contact
Okay,
that, you know, provides us
Well,
with
Jeff sort of,
the background
us started
information and
on that,
getting,
so
yeah,
you
in touch
put it
with
all
each
together,
other, so
Susan.
that's very helpful.
okay. So I sent that out today, so that was my quick thing. Historic resource map, Dick's Windmill information. I'll send reminders. I know everybody's busy with other things, so we'll get it in. And then West Hampton, Performing Arts, the board
that's right,
I'll
it's
send
out.
out reminders. Once when it got close to the meeting, I know you've got to focus on what's at hand, and then, but as soon as I get that and the photos, I'll get that to David so we can get that posted. But on the website itself, I thought we'd already listed all the more current landmarks, like, I thought we just had to add West Hampton PAC, and I looked and I don't see Diamond, Dick's Windmill, so I'll get you the list, including the West Hampton. I think it'd be up to like 38, 39, get that to you tomorrow, so we can at least get the list posted on the landmarks page, up to date, and then hopefully in the next couple weeks, we'll get them out wrapped up.
Great.
So, and the COA form at the website would be great, even if they don't need it, they can read it and get an idea what they might need to do. That's all I have.
Okay. Anything else? In the absence of any further business, this meeting is adjourned.